Right.
You know?
Right. So,
And because I'm afraid of people thinking that I'm weak.
right. So take your whole brain, and instead of trying to understand the world, you can't, because you can't understand the universe. You can't understand the galaxy. We can't understand the person next to it.
Dude, I'm feeling good.
Me too.
I'm so fucking stoked that you're here.
And I appreciate it, man. We had some good energy, good food. Now we just about to catch a vibe, man. And like you said, just legit, just talk some therapy. It's needed nowadays.
Yeah.
Especially in our profession. So it's crazy, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because everybody would say that, especially in our profession, which says that we all need it. Like
right. And like you're saying, it's across every profession. So every person who is in their particular thing are going, we, when I'm listening to podcasts, comics, they're saying, man, we are a messed up bunch. And we have all these things, and we exhibit them through our laughter and through our comedy, and it shows itself in different ways. Like, it manifests for comedians in dark humor. Yeah. For us, it manifests in, you burnt yourself, don't worry about it, or we got this dish messed up, or it's okay. We get this fast-paced energy of trying to forget when we know those things are subtly and subconsciously still staying with us in some way, shape, or form, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, dude. I think this whole thing started, actually, funny enough, with my sous chef. I was talking to him, and he's going through a divorce, and you know, so we've talked a lot, you know,
right?
And I'm a little bit of his therapist in a way, And so we're talking, and I'm just like talking shit to him, because that's the other thing that we do to cope, you know. So
exactly.
Just like we trash each other. So how we can like tear each other down just for fun, like
the negative energy, trying to balance it in some way.
Yeah, and it's fun. There's part of it that actually works as a therapy. It's like when you're like mean to your friend, it's like a deep bond, you know. It's like you've earned that the right to say something really mean about me. It's like comedians, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, you and your fucking therapy, you know, like, and I was like, I don't need therapy. And he's like, dude, out of all the people that I've ever met in my life, you need therapy the most.
For sure, yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck, really?
And most people don't even know how to diagnose the benefits or even the access of therapy. So when you say, man, you need therapy, you're hearing shrink. You're hearing shock therapy. You're hearing that someone wants to put you in a straitjacket more than it is just realizing that someone wants you to understand how you can evaluate your emotions, your feelings, everything that is you, and try and relay that to the people that are existing in the world around you. Because it's one thing to feel how you feel, but it's a whole other thing to actually know and how to translate that so that those emotions and that those energetic feelings can be used for the power of good, or at least for understanding, like a divorce. Like, okay, well, I feel you. You know, at least I'm getting where you're coming from.
Yeah. I think what it is, I'll speak for myself on this, because this happens to me all the time, is that I see these things as if I'm accepting or if I'm admitting that I'm weak. Right. You know?
Right. So,
and because I'm afraid of people thinking that I'm weak.
Right. And to me, that's a construct of, aside from therapy or aside from how we feel about ourselves, to me, that's a larger thing that's at play. Is that it's like a New York minute. You know, people in New York move way faster than in other cities, and they're hyper aware of sensitivities that are danger and things of that lexicon, because for them, everything, it's like a jungle. Yeah. Everything is there to have some sort of negative harm or imbalance in your life. So we're so used to being geared up for things like that. We're so used to setting ourselves up for feeling that things are going to come, when we should just be able to embrace them and understand that life is dangerous, but everything isn't a danger.
Yeah, and sometimes the thing that is perceived as a danger is actually an amazing opportunity that you should take. Right. You know, because you're like, oh, fuck, if I do this, then maybe I'll look like an idiot. But no, maybe not. Maybe actually people are going to relate to you, and then people will like gain strength because they'll see you as somebody that was able to embrace their fear. Right.
And like I even made it towards physical awareness and danger. And like you're saying, sometimes the danger isn't anything except between your ears. It's legit you. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with outside influence. It's more or less like you're saying, it's genuinely understanding that you have to get over those things because you're making the fear up and not seeing it as an opportunity. I was just reading a book, The Pilgrimage by Paulo Coelho, and he talks about there's a waterfall, and upon looking at the waterfall, he's telling them that now it's your turn in the pilgrimage to climb up this waterfall, and once you decide that you're going to do it, know that you can't come down. So at first he's seeing it as just an adverse situation and not how am I going to climb up wet rocks and what am I going to do, without actually realizing it was an opportunity to see something different in the rocks. So as his guide started to help him out and say, hey man, well actually there are strong footholds. There are ways you can do this if you stay close to the rocks and out of the water. You can get up there faster. You can get higher than what you ever have imagined. So 9 times out of 10, like you're saying, it has nothing to do with the existential thing you're looking at, i.e. the waterfall, more than it is you trying to gauge how much danger is actually involved in what you're doing. You know, and we're not built to go into that without thinking about the fear. You know what I mean? Our bodies are our own insurance agent. Yeah. So you have to listen to them to some extent. Like, hey, it's trying to tell me something, but we don't want you to listen to every source code of information that's telling you it's all scary. It's not all scary. We have to learn how to decipher what is danger and what's just inherent fear.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the key is to stay in the middle. You know, it's like, push it just a little bit. You should be uncomfortable.
Yes.
You know, because then otherwise you don't grow.
Right.
But then also don't be stupid. Don't jump off the cliff without a parachute.
Right.
You know, but get close to it, look at it, and you know, kind of face the world. You know, because that's how we get strong.
Have reverence. Have respect for the world. Have respect for its existence. It's going to the zoo, but not jumping in the cage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we know lions exist, but am I going to jump in and try and pet it? No. So be aware of the danger, but don't put yourself in unnecessary situations where the danger becomes prevalent in your life.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Dude, do you hear like a little bit of buzzing in your headphones?
A little bit.
I hear it when I speak. I'm wondering if you can hear it in the recording. Let me check real quick.
Okay.
Oh, that's better.
I always wanted to do that like Wayne.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do that.
So, since we're smoking pot here,
right?
I had this really crazy experience a couple of weeks ago where, like, I smoked a lot in the past, and then sometimes I stop smoking. I don't smoke for a while,
right?
And then I get back into it, and so now I see it as a medicine, and then I also see going sober as a medicine as well. You know, so
peaks
like
and valleys.
Yes, exactly. And so like 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my friend Patrick. I'm probably going to mention him a bunch because he's my super homie. Like we cook together.
And he's going through a lot apparently. So
yeah. And so, I mean, so am I. We're both going through a lot of shit. So like we kind of balance each other out. Yeah. We want to kill each other half the time, but we know that we need each other. So we don't actually do it. Right. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to him, and I was like, fuck, man, like, I don't know, but I'm just stressing so much. Like, there's something that is happening to me where I'm just, like, stressed for no fucking reason either, because my life is fucking pretty dialed right now.
Right.
Like, I'm being creative. I'm doing some cool stuff. You know, I'm talking to a lot of cool people. I just had a little, you know, my wife just gave birth to our third baby, and that's
right. Congratulations, man, by the way.
Thank you, dude. Yeah.
Beautiful baby.
So it's like everything's good. So like, why in the fuck am I so stressed, you know? It's like hard for me to relax. Like, I don't know how to relax. And I've actually always had that problem. And I think it's because I somehow seek validation through trying to do cool things, so people go, oh, Andre did something cool, you know, as opposed to just like relaxing and just being, which reminds me of Charles Bukowski's most famous quote, which is, don't try.
Yeah.
And a lot of people read that and they're like, oh, that's not good, you should try, you know, but it's the wisdom of not trying, like the wisdom of waking up and just living.
Right.
Fuck.
Right.
It's so nice. And so pot is what helps me
kind of come down from that And it's interesting because I wanted to ask a question as soon as you said what you said. How were you with show and tell in school? Was that your time to shine? Like, is that your, I get to bring this cool thing that I feel is cool and then everyone gets to agree with me? Like, is that the times in your life where you felt the most connected and related to? Is that why it's more of a, you know what I mean? Like, look at me type of thing? Or is it you might have had performative people in your family, so standing up on stage or something like that? Because I share a similar thing. I have a large family. Yeah. So to get attention, you practically have to like do a backflip off of a car while it's moving or something like, and even having a family member, even now, even to this day, I have a family member that is arguably one of the best basketball players in the world. Yeah. So it directly reflects that cool thing that, like you're saying, you almost have to do something to stand out in a sense. So as soon as I heard you say that, I was like, man, I remember that. I remember those feelings of trying to be me, and like you're saying, don't try. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm trying, and I don't want to let on that I'm trying, or I don't want to give too much of the try, but it's clear that what I'm doing is attention based in a sense, good or bad. Yeah. So yeah, I felt you on that statement, man, and how you could get there. Yeah.
Well, I think that we're starting to see that. So happy birthday, by the way.
Oh man, thank you.
We're almost the same age. I'm 38.
Oh, okay, so, cool. Fresh 37.
Yes. So we're like starting to get to the age where we stop caring so much about those things, because we're realizing that it actually doesn't matter so much what other people think. It's like, as long as you feel comfortable with yourself when you're by yourself, then you're good, But when we were kids, that's a different story, because you're trying to find a place. You're trying to find a tribe of people. You're trying to figure out who you are, because you don't know, Right. I know who I am now,
Right.
Starting to scratch that surface.
When I was a kid. Allowing yourself to be okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have no choice. You should be okay with that.
Right. Because it is what it is. But as you get older, that's when you realize, oh, damn, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. And trying to change it is where the difficulty comes in.
But, the first thing to change who you are, I think, is to accept where you're at and be okay with that. Like, forgive yourself for the fuck ups that you made. And, like, whatever it is that you did, you're here because of those choices. Right. And, like, really accepting that. Right. And then you move forward for them. Like, now I want to be better at taking care of my health. Well, you can start that any day. Right. And even if you've been eating McDonald's every day of your life in the past, like, you can change that anytime. Right. But not until you're like, oh, I'm a human being. Exactly. Of course I fucked up.
Right. McDonald's was tailored. I was just talking to someone about this. We had set out some Truly cans, and we were just talking about what makes you pick the flavor of what it is. So it was just a variation of different cans of the beverage. So some were citrus punch and some were berry and watermelon and things of that nature. And it was interesting to see, well, some people were like, man, I'm cool with the can. If the can looks good, then I'll drink it. Yeah. Some people are, well, I want a flavor that reminds me of my favorite candy. That way it lets me know I'm going to be inclined to like it, because it's a sugary drink. It has a little alcohol and content to it, but it's relatable to my palate. Some people wanted to be adventurous just based on never trying anything before. So they looked and said, well, I've never tried that, so I'm going to try something that's adverse to the things that I usually try. So like you're saying, watching people grow and become who they are based on the decisions that they make throughout that path gets easier when we get older, because we are honing down, in a sense, what decisions are vital decisions, or what ones we can go, you know what, I stick with this. This works for me. It doesn't break my confidence to not choose something different or be different. I know that what I'm doing is a part of a larger thing that I can keep doing as long as I don't micromanage my own decisions. When you're young, you micromanage psychologically every decision you have, because you think in a larger space what it's going to mean, when it actually doesn't mean anything unless it means something to you. Yeah. So,
That's what I'm trying to teach my kids. Like, my daughter is super shy. And so I know what's going on in her head, because I was shy. Yeah. Like, super shy as a kid. Right. I was like, is scared of how people are going to perceive me, or like maybe I'm going to say something stupid and everyone's going to repeat the stupid thing I said or whatever, you know?
Right.
And eventually I stopped caring. At some point I was just like, well, I want to make somebody laugh. So I'm going to say something and see what happens. And then you start playing that game of like figuring out who you are and how you communicate.
Right.
So she's going through that right now. And it's fascinating to me because I see myself in her so much.
Yeah.
And I realize how fragile that stage is. Like she's 11.
Yeah.
So what do I say? How do I say it? How much should I push? Because ultimately it's about her decision to do it when she's ready. That's ultimately when it's going to work. But my job is to help her be ready sooner. You know what I mean? So
and it's the human experience that even if you wanted to help her be ready, you would only be helping her be ready for the reality that you're aware of.
Yeah.
So it's a whole new social construct of pressure that if she came to you with information and said, well, now they're bullying me on Twitter. You at 11 didn't deal with Twitter, so you can't even relate to how to navigate the emotions of what that may be feeling like when it used to just be, for us, it was the book, the slam book or whatever that went around the school and everybody wrote how they really felt about you. And it was all these crazy little notes and people confessing all their deepest emotions and feelings. But the weird part about that was it was in their handwriting. So after a while, once you got the book, you could connect the feeling to the person based on them writing it and who it was that wrote it. With her, she's going to feel anonymous people, strangers, that people that aren't even in her school, that are in other places around the world, casting a judgment that we've never felt. So like you're saying, you want to be there and you want to help, but how can you help in a world that has moved in education, in bullying, in social construct? It's moved so fast that we almost have to witness it.
Yeah.
You know, we almost have to sit back and be like, damn, you at 11, you're even doing new math. The math is different, you know, so it's, good luck with that. And I know it's a tough situation to see yourself in someone, but it's like an alternate future.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine that's tough.
It's crazy. And being a girl and like being the person that changed my life more than anyone in the world, you know, no one has ever done that for me. I was a fucking stupid 25-year-old kid, you know, I had no idea about anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this little baby girl, it's in my arms, and everything changes, you know, in the best of ways. And so now, I don't know, it's like, it's really sad to think that maybe we're like, this is the generation that we're sacrificing almost, because it's like the first one that's facing all the ugliness of the world through social media and all that. Because
we are the sacrificial lambs of the generation, and I don't think we're not going to get our credit until the generation after us, like our kids, they get older and realize how many things they creatively get to do. I was just talking about this, about the mental creative space that we are allowed to hold and how cavalier we are with it. Like, people start businesses as if our parents were able to start businesses. People weren't able to just, you know what, I want to start a cupcake shop, or I want to start doing calligraphy. There weren't creative spaces for people at all times. So it's a certain reverence and respect that we have to have as the sacrificial lambs of being able to be chefs, having a conversation via podcast, knowing that our parents can do it, but we have to show our kids how to do it. Yeah. So we might not get the level of success that we necessarily want, but the freedom and the creativity that we express through it shows the following generation that this is how it looks for them, and then they're going to do it naturally out the gate. With college being somewhat obsolete due to the finances of it, with realizing that you don't need the degree to do what you're doing. Our generation that's going to come after us will catch on to that in high school and won't pay as much debt. They'll know who they want to be in life. Yeah. And that creative course is different than who we are as the generation that was before us, where get a job. You know, you have to go to college, you have to do these things. So being in the middle of that is very tough, because we existed in a space where our parents told us to do what they did, We realized it didn't work, changed it, and now we don't even get to benefit from it truly until our kids are the people that are starting podcasts straight out of high school.
Yeah.
The NIL deals with basketball players that are in, like, kids in our day were not getting paid to go to college to be college athletes. Now they're, oh, okay, well, I'll do some years in college if I can get the NIL deal, and Gatorade will still come down here and sponsor me. That's where the one and done came from. So education and profitability were completely disconnected when it came to us. But now they have profitability, education, and actual scholarships that can promote them as completely creative individuals. They can come out of college and be full on YouTube influencers. Like that did not exist for us or the generation before us. So it is a sacrifice that we have to hold and honor, because it's something that our grandkids are going to benefit from a creative and sense of purpose standpoint. They're going to know themselves more than knowing what job they're going to get or what college they're going to go to, or for our generation of the basketball players, just making it to their league to buy the mama a house. You know what I mean? Like, kids now are dancing when they're coming out in the arena, coming out the tunnel. These kids are not, all right, I'm serious, I'm here for business, I got to make this happen. No, they're doing business and actually being happy while doing it. Yeah. So yeah, it's tough for us to be where we are, but I love being the generation that's the test dummy.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
I really like that you said that, because when I started thinking about that idea, I was thinking that they are kind of the ones that are the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
But I think you're 100% right. We are the ones, because we're the ones that are sandwiched in between when things were kind of set in stone, and you like went through this path, you went through school, you got a job, and you stayed in a job, you retire. That's before us. And then we are in that like quicksand of like, exactly. Well, we got to learn quick enough. Otherwise our kids are fucked.
Right.
You know,
we have to be creative and foundational at the same time.
Yeah.
We're existing where you have to have a job for a certain amount of years as far as credit score and all of that. But then our kids are going, well, I'm a creative. I don't want to have to worry about that. We're doing Bitcoin now. What do you mean credit score? They're trying to change the whole financial structure of what life is. So like you're saying, we are sandwiched in what was and what will be.
Yes.
So it's just literally up to us to sit in it and hold the space of calm, present reverence. Like, we are here. We are aware that it's tough, and we want to give you the sense of identity, but we also want to carry, because there is a certain level of quality in the work that our predecessors gave us when work was the only thing that we quantified.
Totally.
When work was quality, we had car plants, we had people who wanted to be doctors, firemen, things of that nature. They wanted to do the jobs that were going to be integral to the community. And we've lost that now, because being a creative isn't necessarily integral to your direct community, but it reaches way more people.
Yeah.
So even if you are going to be a creative, be artistic, but foundational with some sort of work that draws back to your community.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that in some way we can reflect while you're out there being you and having fun and existing, still hold some sort of 9 to 5 mentality with it.
Yeah.
You know, maintain that sense of work ethic and groundedness. You know, I was just talking about it, and we were saying that if we're going to lose religion, at least we should gain tradition.
Yeah.
So these kids now are trying to, hey, well, if the Easter Bunny isn't real and Santa Claus isn't real, then now we need to start canceling religions. We need to start going through and looking through all the books. Okay, that's cool. No problem with that. Tear it all down if that's how you feel. But you have to have a tradition of something that is foundational to you and the communal sense if you're going to take away religion, because that's what it is at its core. Now, it has its wayward moments, but it's essentially there for us to be guided as a compass or a North Star. Every religion has the base of, we want you to do and be the best that you can do and be. And every person from every region might feel differently about how you get there. But essentially, it's coming down to having that center and everyone feeling the same way. So if we're going to lose that, and we're not going to abide by the Jesus rules and whether he's black or white or whatever it may be, if we're going to do away with that, okay, cool. But are we going to replace it with some meeting space where you talk about therapy? Is it every Sunday where God isn't on the wall, but your feelings are on the wall? Or how are we going to adapt to that? Because being in the middle, I know and respect the level that was before us. And I don't think the generation after us fully get and respect what their grandparents and their version of great grandparents are. We got that. We got who our grandparents and great grandparents were. I don't quite think that the generation underneath us connect with their elders the way we do. So it's a very fine and humbling space to be in when we are the narrators of the future, because we're the only people that can document the past in the way that we do. Even doing it like this and having an open forum and conversation, it's hard to get our elders to sit down and openly discuss things. And then with the younger generation, they're opening up about too many things. You know, like, okay, well, I didn't, you should really filter your thoughts before saying them. So yeah, man, it's an interesting place to be in the middle, but I love it. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Dude, I feel like you helped me out so much with everything you just said, because it adds so much more value to my position as somebody that is passing on the torch.
Yeah.
And the importance of me teaching my kids about history and my parents and my culture. Like, I grew up in South America in a place where it's so different. For example, one of the things that happens in the US that has happened to me. So I moved here when I was 16, and I've been here now for 22 years, I think. The American dream is that you can get anything you want, right? And even though a lot of people say it's not a life, I think it very much is a life.
Right.
And what happens is that it opens every door on ever. You can do anything. Right. But it also creates this weird psychological self-loathing, because you are aware, you're hyper aware of your weaknesses. Like, I could be a multimillionaire. Right. And so I'm like, fuck, why am I not a multimillionaire? Is it because I'm fucking dumb, or is it because I'm lazy, or is it? And so I start to whip myself because I'm like, fuck. Yeah. And so this never ending opportunities at the end turns into self-doubt and self-loathing. Mm-hmm. And this is something that, at least when I was growing up there, I was seeing, is that the possibilities of becoming a millionaire or an NBA star are zero, you know?
Right.
So psychologically, you try less, you know? Or you don't think less of yourself, because those things are just so outside of reality that it creates a society of people that are more like, hey, you go work in the morning, do your couple of things you got to do, and then you get together with your friends every night, and you have this community, and your life is taking care of yours, making sure that the people around you are happy, they're fed, you know?
You start thinking of life as a consolation prize. Like, okay, well, I'm not rich, but hey, I go to work and I do these things and I enjoy my family, and you start to totally withdraw from the quality of what it is to be those things. Yeah. Because it's a rarity. Like you're saying, the American dream is alive, but the American, I think it's a dream, but the American wish. And the reason I'll say wish is because I think a genie is something that would grant a wish, versus the American dream is something you can think of and try and put together on your own. The wish, like a NBA player or a basketball player or the president, that's not alive as much as you think it is. But the American dream in itself, yes, is still alive. The ability to do what you want and be what you want and set your own schedule and live your own life outside of certain political or religious constructs is definitely in existence here. Yeah. But trying to be, like you're saying, once you're aware of, well, I'm not going to be that, and in a world or in a country that only recognizes that, I guess I'll just kind of fade away into the background. And you don't really want to, more than, like you're saying, you're kind of forced to based on your options. You come to America thinking, well, I can do everything. And then you get here and go, well, I really can't. So I'm going to do what I can do. And then when you start doing what you can do, you say, man, thank God I'm doing this. And then just keep connecting with people that are doing something like that, or at least in the neighborhood of where you live, in your proximity, your communal space. So I don't want our generation or the next to feel as if we're settling for who we are because the world told us to be more. Yeah. You know, like, we are who we are. You know, I am a chef. Chefs get paid a certain amount of money. And after that, that's just what it is. If I decide the American dream says that Guy Fieri makes X amount of dollars and that's the only way that I am supposed to quantify myself as a chef, then I lose. Yeah. You know, like, that's not it. The American dream is to be able to be happy with yourself. Yeah. And that's where it should stay in my mind.
I love writing. I write every morning. It's like I get up early, I make my coffee, and I write. And this morning I was writing this thing that I called something like, would you rather have $1 million and do nothing, or would you rather have $100 million and work all the time? You know, because I'm helping rephrase in my mind what it means to live with less, you know, right. And this idea that if you work really hard, you'll have $100 million. Right. But then what you don't realize is that you're working all the fucking time.
Exactly.
You know, so what are you trading? Why are you trading your time that right. goes away? You know, every second, it's like we're closer to the end. You know, not to sound pessimistic, but it's true.
Yeah.
And as opposed, you know, the opposite of that is like, take $1 million and do nothing. And so how can we live our lives with the minimum and be happy? Right. And just like, you know, like, how do we structure a life that just feels good?
But even then, the American dream tells you to make it 100 million.
Yeah.
Even that construct of your brain going, well, how do I get 100 million and work all the time, or 1 million and do nothing? Like, it needs to be more like 1 million, because the wish is 100 million. That is the 1% of people. Making $100 million in America is going to require you to do a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to do. Yeah. So either you're okay with that, or you're understanding that your ceiling of personal accumulation, I would say, is probably about $1 million. And that's $1 million over your lifetime. Yeah. So can you live with whatever it is that you're doing and being okay that you'll never see $1 million? Or can you just chase the $1 million, get it, and then realize it's not what you wanted? Because one of the two things is going to happen. Either you can just be okay now, or you can reach that plateau and realize, man, I got 1 million, but what feels better than 1? 2 million. Yeah. And that's the rat race you start to fall into. Yeah. Even so, it doesn't even have to be 100 million for you to work all the time. Yeah. Once you get 1, you're going to lean towards making 100. You don't even have to have it technically. The idea that I made 1, so I'm supposed to make 2. I made 2, so I'm supposed to make 4. Yeah. And unbeknownst to you, you start to work a lot. Yeah. Unaware. You just subconsciously, well, I'm spending more time at the office because the quarter earnings are coming out, and this is the time to do that. So you start seeing yourself become consumed by something that on paper seems logical and feasible because you've done it. You know, like oh man, I've done it, so it's cool. Or I've made this salary, so why don't I continue getting another job like this? And you might not have the stamina for that every year, you know? So you got to think about the 15, 30 year average of, do I want to keep chasing the job even though I made X amount of dollars? Or do you want to make it your plateau and cruise on out? You know, can I do it with nothing? Can I live life with who I am and a shelter? Yeah. To me, that should be the basis of where we start to, do I feel good? Is my rent paid? Is everybody sleep? Do we have covers? Do we have food? Is it all good? Then let me start there. And once I start there, then I can start painting in the lines of what life can mean. But as the American dream, there are other cultures and other countries around the world that's where they start. Yeah. They start with clothes, food, shelter. We have decided that $1 million is where we start. Yeah. That's how we immediately, all right, well, because 100,000, 500,000 is no longer considered affluence.
Yeah.
It's a good job. It's nice. Your house is worth 500. Man, you know how many houses in California, Oregon, all along the West Coast are worth $500,000 now.
Yeah.
So like we don't even see $1 million the way we used to. So understanding that the American construct alone has forced us to feel like genuinely $1 million is just what you spend on 2 homes. That if you start that, man, you will never stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never stop.
And you and I know a lot of wealthy people.
Right.
And
right.
we know for a fact that all that money doesn't make you happier. It gives you a lot of nice shit, and it's nice.
Money gives you security. It does not give you happiness.
Totally.
It gives you security.
A certain amount.
Right.
It's past that, whatever, you know?
But I think that it's, like you're saying, and the only security it doesn't give you is the things that you're not supposed to control.
Yeah.
So with money, you're going to spend it on the things that you want to, but at the same time, there's going to be life. It's going to be, weather. There are things that you can't deal with. But when it comes to having money, the happiness that most wealthy people are looking for is that thing that we're talking about. They sacrifice to go get it. Yeah. So they're secure and they're foundationally set, but they don't feel that relaxation because they in their mind know that there's some quiet thing chasing them to keep going after more money. They won't allow themselves to stop. It's nobody else. It's them who is chasing. There is no carrot. They are their own carrot. Chasing that thing. So like the happiness starts to deteriorate because they don't know how to shut it off more than it is just stopping and going, wow, I made enough. This is enough. I'm okay. I could stop right now. And with enough money that I've made, go off and be happy. But they don't know where that button is. Yeah. So the more money you get, I think you lose that button in life. You lose that ability to decide when purpose and financial ability have met its apex. Yeah. I've done everything that I can do in the natural gift that I've been given. That's enough. Most people don't reach it. They either work too hard or they push their gift too hard, and now it's gone too far. You got to know when gracefully bow out. That's just it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's rare, man. It's so rare. Yeah. I think so. One of my favorite people in the whole world, my friend Roderick, he's a fucking beast, and he is somebody that made his fortune because he's a badass. But I was having this conversation with him of, is it ever enough? And before I could even finish my question, he's like, no, and I was like, fuck, because I think that I'm a driven person, and like, I love the idea of being super motivated and like grinding. I love that, because that's what we look up to, like as kids. And even now, like, like I'm describing my friend Roderick, he's a fucking beast. He's the type of person that says he's going to do something and he doesn't. Like, he's going to do it. He's not going to back out, Right. And so that naturally we look up to. But I'm a little bit scared of falling into a trap of this never-ending thing because I'm obsessed with the idea of mortality.
Right.
And how I don't want to waste this great opportunity, So it's like this catch-22 of, should I just relax? Like right now, I had recently two experiences that really changed my life. Mm-hmm. One is my little boy was just born a couple of weeks ago. And the last 2 kids we had before that, I had to work all the time. So I wasn't really here. I was just working because that's the reality of my life.
Right.
No one else is going to pay my mortgage, so I had to work.
Right.
This time, for the first time, I'm able to be at home as like a lot because I have my own business now. I'm not working for somebody else. And being there and like seeing all this shit, how hard it is on like my wife to go through this thing, like to be attached to this thing all the time. And something that I missed last time because I wasn't here, but now I'm seeing it. And now I'm older too. I was like 26 or something when my daughter was born. Now I'm 38.
Right.
So I'm a different person, Yeah. And it's really making me think that what I need to do right now in this part of my life is to be present for my kids.
Right.
Nothing else really matters because if whatever it is that I tell them to do it's going to go in one ear and out the other.
Right.
What they're going to learn is what I do. They're going to watch me, and that's what they're going to learn.
Right.
So what do? Well, you got to make sure that they catch you in the act of excellence.
Right.
So you got to work on yourself.
Right.
And so what does that mean? Becoming a badass person that's always hustling, or somebody that's more relaxed? Like
exactly.
Exactly.
You teach them how to feel about certain energies. We're in a TikTok world. Parents don't realize that them having a TikTok as well is what fuels that mindset that we all have to have one, or them doing the dances with them. Yes, it's a great way to correlate. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you're acknowledging and agreeing that if I want attention and you want attention, we have to do this dance and then post it on social media. So does that reflect the competence of, I don't have to do that. I don't want to do that. Sure, we can. I don't mind it. But are you expressing to them that this is not the end all be all? This is not where we find ourselves, because you can lose yourself in followers. If one of those things go viral and now you're older and you haven't realized how to separate that space, then all of a sudden you're trying to go viral with your kid again. Yeah. You're trying to work in a space that you shouldn't be working in, all to reach a level that, in my mind, it feels, how do you say, that midlife crisis, living through your kids type of thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to decide that they are the most important thing. And then once you decide that, it's how you reflect your base of excellence through you and not through them, or things you guys can connect on and try and make it grandiose. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to be able to be, hey, I'm going to be a janitor, but I'm going to be the best janitor, and I'm going to come home and be a great dad right after that. So as long as you see those kind of foundational things, whether you make more money or not, you'll know that who I am and what I build myself in isn't social or financial or anything that's outside based. So like it's a interesting thing to be adults to kids who have to feel so much pressure that we, like you're saying, being in the middle, that we have to be cooler than the pressure that's outside, because even though they go outside, they still come and look in the home for, what do you think?
Yeah.
Because I know what they think, and we knew how our friends thought. Yeah. We were like, yeah, you cool, but I still have to run this up the flagpole. You know what I mean? Like, so that since that's always going to happen, we have to hear things and be involved in things that, with kids nowadays, they're going to express them to us, and we have to be the solid sense of compass and know ourselves while doing that. We can't be lost and then give a bad answer, because that's the answer we would have wanted, or the way we would have wanted it handled. Yeah. Like it's a lot of layers. Yeah.
Have you read a book by, do you know who, what's his name? Boyd Vardy? Does that name sound familiar?
No, but I'm down to read it now.
You should fucking read this book. So the book is, he's got 2 books, but his first book is The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. Oh. So what this guy does is, he is in Africa and he finds lions, which it's impossible to describe how difficult that job is, right? So like they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they walk and they find clues in these tracks, and then they are like, okay, well, the grass is like, it looks like the lion stepped on this grass like 7 hours ago, and there's like fresh poop here, and then there's whatever, right? Yeah. Stuff that normal people would never figure out.
Right.
But he's got these 2 incredible phrases. One of them is, I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there. And when he said that, it really resonated with me, because in the world that we live in right now, we have no fucking clue what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
So we need to make sure that the tools of our skills are really good, so we can say, well, we know how to get there because we know these core principles,
Right.
So I'm thinking that because our kids, we don't know what world they're going to live in.
Right. We
have to arm them with these tools that will give them the confidence to know that no matter what happens, they don't know where they're going, but they know how to get there,
Right.
And so it's being honest, It's being brave, you know, is like really giving yourself permission to be you.
Exactly.
You know?
And whatever that means.
Whatever that means, because all of us are different. We're all the same, but we're all different. You know? Right. And so I really like what you're saying, because you've said it multiple times now, which is the idea of just being calm. And this guy, Boyd Vardy, he talks about that because he was attacked by lions in the past. And we have no idea what that would feel like. But he says the only way that you'll survive that situation is by speaking the language of the universe. And that language is to be calm. Right. And you communicate that. Even a lion knows. Even you don't speak the same language, but if you're calm, they know.
Right.
What they sense is this other animal, in this case, this guy, is dangerous because it's now running away from me.
Right.
But it's also not here to hurt me. And so I respect that. Exactly. And so the lion communicates with you. You know that there's a conversation happening.
Right.
And the animal walks away. Right. And that's kind of like the exaggerated way, because, you know, being in front of a lion is kind of not something that happens every day. But the truth of how, when you're calm, you communicate to everybody something that is so powerful. The ultimate, most powerful thing ever is if you're that person that can just be calm no matter what.
It's the same way with dogs. Even if it's it doesn't even have to be a lion. It can be a dog that's large and it's barking at you to sense what you're going to do. Yeah. It's trying to alarm you that, hey, this is how I feel. Now, determine on how you feel lets me know if I'm right or not. Yeah. And if I'm right, then that means I'm going to continue with what I'm doing. And sometimes they're just wired to think with act first, think second. But most times, inquisitive barks from a dog is to go, who are you? What's going on? This is what I'm supposed to do if I see something that I don't know. Just like lions, like sharks. Sharks don't just swim up and bite you. They come by a little bit, check and see, okay, well, based on this distance, it looked like something I might want to eat. Then it'll swim by you and bump you a couple times to see, okay, well, it's not that hard. It kind of got some soft tissue. Like, I can get through that. Okay, and then it'll wait, and then it goes away for a little while. And then after it, all right, well, now I know I can eat it. I know it doesn't think I'm around. Then I come back, you know? So that calm energy of throughout that, if you can work your way through it, the level of shark attack will be different because you're seeing it, you're observing it, you're aware of what's happening. And if you can get yourself to safety, do that. If you can't, then the attack is just what it is. But like when it comes to animals, lions, dogs, anything, the first job is to assert its dominance to see what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And if you don't assert yours, then it's going, okay, well, I am the alpha. That's just the way it works. Yeah. And we, in a sense, do the same thing, whether it be verbal, financial, social. That's another layer that people are using their social version of barking to assert themselves. And this is who I am. This is how many followers I have. This is what I bring to the table. And it's hard for people to stay calm in their social space. It's hard. I could see how it's harder for kids to not try and follow trends or, like just be themselves because this social dog is barking at you, this big mounting thing of, I am what the world considers normal. The having a social media presence, having a following, doing certain trends, that whole thing is coming down on you in a sense. And you feel like, I got to succumb to it. I'm scared. It's too much. I guess I got to follow. When you don't have to follow, just stay calm, be you, and the world will come to you as it's supposed to. That's just the way life is. It always happens that way. Yeah,
I think that's the truth. I think the only challenging part with that is, you don't learn that until you're older. Right. It's so rare to meet a kid that's got it together. So hard. Right. Like I know myself, I had no fucking clue about anything as a kid. Right. I've always been really intellectually curious. It's like I like asking questions, and so I became a bad kid in school because I was the kid that was always like, "Whoa, but why? Why are we doing like this?" Too many questions. And then when they gave me bad answers, like for example, teacher, why do I have to do this homework, this math homework? Right. And they would say, well, because I told you so. Then I would be like, that is a really dumb answer. Right. So now how can I respect you when you couldn't give me a good answer?
Right. I was the exact same way.
Yeah. And so I'm really, one of my passions actually is to do cooking classes for at-risk youth. And it's for multiple reasons. Like one, I do think that everybody should learn the basics of cooking because it empowers you. But more than anything, because I'm using my legitimacy as a cook to teach them and then to actually try to get to them and try to give them that message, you know, because it's hard being a kid, you know, and like for me, bad kids are my favorite because I was a bad kid. And I think in the great majority of cases, bad kids are really smart kids, arguably the smartest kids, but nobody gave them a good answer, you know, and nobody showed them that there's all these incredible things that they can do with their lives because they're showing from, a young age that they're curious. They're trying to push this thing. Like those are everyone that we remember in history were those bad kids that were like, I'm not going to go and sit in a cubicle all fucking day and be stuck in traffic and fucking.
I'm going to do something different.
I want to fucking live, you know, and do something cool. And like, I don't want to die after I die. You know, I think that's something that a lot of these kids have in them. It's like they have a sense that they're put on this planet to do something great. You know, and so we get confused as to what that means. So we chase maybe, you know, success in business or whatever. But then at some point, it's very clear that success is to simply gain as much experience and knowledge and wisdom as you possibly can. And then pass it on to the next generation. Find that kid that was like you, that's going through the shit that you were going through, and then help them out.
And align yourself,
I think that's like the most powerful thing. And I think we're getting to that age where we're like, we've gathered enough experience in life. No wisdom yet, you know, but
experience.
Yeah.
And then experience honed down turns into wisdom because then you've figured out how to translate experience. To me, that's where wisdom comes in. It's I always told people my dream job was to be Socrates or Aristotle because like when I heard about their job, where they're just philosophers. Nobody has a real, like, how much did they get paid? Nobody really knows. But the fact of the matter is that they had enough money and finances donated by people to think about stuff. That's all they did, was sit around and go, well, what if that apple fell from the tree and went up? I don't know. But they got paid to do that and then stop thinking about it. Like, well, it goes down, and that's just it. And they thought about the stars, and they thought about how we feel about things today and have correlated the human experience so much so that their wisdom has been passed on and it lasts for generations. So I've always wanted to be that person where I could take my accumulative experiences and everything that I've ever done or I've heard people do and decide that to put it in a phrase or a sentence or a dish or a musical note or whatever we can get that message across in a sonic way, because it's something to know something and it's something to do something, but it's something completely different to be able to translate it universally and then it exists to stand the test of time, you know. And we're at the age where we got to start thinking about what things am I doing that stand the test of time in the eyes and minds of the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really curious how you started gaining this wisdom.
I think that it's a complex mix of how my family is and how I've had to navigate life. So it was essentially growing up in Oakland. I knew who I was survival-wise. So it was like knowing you have your body and that part of you taken care of. You know how to move and duck and live and survive. And once you've done that and you feel like those spidey senses are honed in, you start reaching outwards. So I started reaching outwards for the why questions. And like you're saying, for me, it wasn't from a teacher. It was from my parents. It was about street lights. Like, why is there 5 o'clock traffic? If I'm a kid and I want to go watch cartoons, why won't they just make it to where certain people get off work at a certain time and other people get off work at another time, and then we all can flow, as opposed to 5 o'clock traffic? Fast forward to we're still in our late 30s now, and there's still 5 o'clock traffic, even though we have DoorDash, Uber, people work from home. That's just something that always is. Those things are things that will constantly exist. But I've always wanted to know why everything is the way it is, because it affects me from once I've learned how to survive, I can't thrive because these things are in my way. So I need to figure them out, because survival is a natural process in California. You got to do that. You got to wake up and stay alive. Yeah. So once all right, well, I'm walking around and I'm staying alive, and that's the thing I'm already doing, like well, what else is there? And you do it so early in life that as a kid, especially seeing kids die early and seeing families being broken up early and never to be repaired, you start asking those questions in life way faster, because you don't even think you have the time to get the answers. I genuinely at a certain time thought that I was going to die at 25. Never thought I was going to make it past 25. So in my head, I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting to be older than I ever thought I would. What's more than this? I condensed all this knowledge into this small space and trying to get as much as I could. And then I reached a plateau where I learned everything that I wanted to learn in this 25 years, never thinking I had 25 more. But now that I do, wow, there has to be 25 more years worth of knowledge on this side. It has to be more. So just adapting to survivalist mentality and getting beyond it, and then wanting to know what makes the earth tick. Why are seasons the way they are? Coming to find out that we don't just spin around the sun in one stationary place. We actually accelerate through space and are spinning around. So it's more like a rocket, and we're surrounding a rocket going in one particular direction. Wow. Finding that out in my mind is like, wow, that's cool. Yeah. Like, we are not sitting still in one particular place, just floating. We are all hurled in space. And space is so big that we haven't run into anything yet. Yeah. In the history of all these millions of years, whatever one direction we're traveling as this planet, it has continued to travel around the sun because the sun is traveling. Yeah. And to think about that just for a second and sit with it, it's like, wow, well, then what else does that mean? Yeah. And if that means something, what else? So the world is full of curiosity, and it's full of everything that we're supposed to experience. It's just whether you decide if that experience is worth it, and knowledge has always been worth it to me. I've never missed trying to find knowledge. Never missed. Like, oh, okay, well, I didn't find that, but I found this. Yeah. So that's where the inquisitive energy comes from.
I love it, dude. One of the things that I learned from my dad that's super fucking cool, and I'm actually making a video about it right now, is that if you, I'm going to do this for you, and then people that are listening, I'm going to make a video about it. But imagine that a blank page is everything there is to know, right? And then, but what you do know is just one little dot in the middle, right? So this is what you know.
Right.
Everything else is what you don't know. But then if you do it right, you're going to read, you're going to have a lot of conversations, you're going to ask a lot of questions, you're going to listen a lot, right? And so as you do that, well, the amount of knowledge that you have becomes not a dot, but it becomes a circle, right? Because it's growing.
Right.
And then that continues to grow and grow, right? As long as you're doing it right.
Right.
But what happens as this is happening is that now the surface between what you do know and what you don't know actually expands.
Right.
So the more that you learn, the more you realize that you don't know.
You don't know. Exactly.
And ultimately, that's what gives you the wisdom to understand that being calm is actually the ultimate thing to do. Like the ultimate most powerful thing, Right. You don't learn that until you become humbled from learning so much.
Exactly.
Which it really exposes a lot of people, because when people are super dogmatic and they're like, this is how it is.
Right.
It shows that they haven't traveled far enough down this path of knowledge to realize that actually they don't know.
They don't know. And that path is never ending. It's like you saying, when you open that book and it's 2 pages to it, and you're only able to say, well, this is the amount of knowledge you were only able to put it on 1 page. So the fact of the matter is that even though the circle got bigger, it was still an entire page that didn't have anything on it. So, and you could have been doing that for minutes. That circle could have gotten larger and larger and larger, and you could have drawn to where the entire first page that you were on is completely black, and you still would have had a whole other page to start on. So like once you realize to let both pages go, I only need to know what I need to know and pass on what I need to pass on so that the page gets bigger with generational knowledge. So it's not me more than it is my bloodline, more the people I come in contact with. We are covering the page as opposed to me covering the page directly, because there's no way your cumulative knowledge is going to be able to fit in one space. But what you can take from one generation and pass to the next, what that energy can translate to can cover pages, because that energy is something that's been learned through that cumulative experience that's passed through actual wisdom. Because to me, experience is funneled, wisdom is funneled experience. It's taking everything you know and going, well, based on all that, man, I don't have time to tell you about chapter 1. I got time to tell you about this, because I've lived long enough to know that everything I went through, these are the only things that matter. So yeah, man, like that's a great analogy. And it even lets you know, even if you were doing that all day, we still don't have the mental capacity or time to cover everything. It's
and if you did, for some crazy reason, you'll realize that once you fill up the pages, this is just part of the entire universe.
Just part of the book.
It continues to go forever.
You have to flip the next page, and that's that's why I love the planet, because we are on the planet Earth, and for so long we thought that the sun revolved around the Earth, and then now we just went, oh, okay, well, actually we revolve around the sun. Now we're starting to realize that the universe is so big that the one thing we're revolving around is a star that's in a universe that's in a galaxy. We really got to zoom out. And I don't think that as humans, we decided to zoom out on information. So if we can even look at the fact that we aren't even the biggest thing when it comes to our solar system, that means that there are other things that we can't possibly understand. So take your whole brain, and instead of trying to understand the world, you can't, because you can't understand the universe. You can't understand the galaxy. We can't understand the person next to us. I tell people all the time, you can know everything that there is to know in your head, but never know everything in the next person to you. So if I can't think of what you're thinking of, then that means that everything that's in your head, I have no idea about. So if I knew every piece of knowledge that was in a book and I came to you and said, hey, I know everything that was in the library, you would say, well, guess what number between 1 and 10? What am I thinking right now? And I couldn't come up with that answer. That means I don't know everything, because your brain unlocks secrets that I don't have. So everybody's like that. Like once you know, you can't guess that. It's roulette when it comes to the entire planet. So just let go, relax, learn what you learn, enjoy what you don't, and just marvel at the fact that it's a great big world, Yeah,
it is. I wonder, because all of this comes back down to me, in my opinion, to community, right? Like we need each other, right? Like I can do some things, but in reality, I can't do shit on my own.
Right.
If I don't have people around me, I can't do shit, right? And that is true for wisdom, for like how much I can learn. And like, I'm going to pick a bunch of books and read them, and I'm going to continue to learn.
Right.
But then you're going to do the same. And so what happens when you add those two backgrounds, experiences, and then what happens when we actually meet a bunch of other people that, like us, are obsessed with this idea of asking questions?
Right.
So what happens then, And how do we cultivate those communities in a world where it is very limited? Like, I'm so happy that you're here right now in person and not through a computer. Right. Even though computers are fucking amazing, and I'm talking to people in Canada and other places, fucking great.
But this is different.
But nothing replaces sitting in front of a real person,
I think cumulative wisdom is something that we have to decide is, it's just like how they decided what books went into the Bible. There are tons of books that people wrote. Yeah. There were tons of people that submitted their version of what they think the Almighty was supposed to be translated to through the Bible. But ultimately, they all had to decide what was equally important and what should go forward and what shouldn't. Yeah. So anybody that's in that level should decide for their area of expertise, cultural connection, hobby, whatever it is. They all decide, just like Comic-Con. They decide what outfits are cool. They decide what comics have value. They decide and set the tone for something that the world technically doesn't even involve itself in. But that ecosystem has made a structure that they foundationally live in and no one can disrupt. So that's what it has to be for every particular space. So when it comes to chefs, if we want chef knowledge to pass on, then we all have to, as chefs, come together and say, hey, this is what we think. This is what we want to pass on. These are the things. Do you have to go to Food Network? Yes or no? Do you have to start your own restaurant? Yes or no? Can you be a private chef? Can we write the book of, well, he didn't start a restaurant, but he had a food cart and was happy? You know, like what chapters of this book don't have to have the same portions in it that it's always had? And then we have to determine what that looks like, because the future is going to hear what they hear. That has nothing to do with us. They're going to do what it is they want to do. But we got to decide, like we're saying with cultural norms from our predecessors about Michelin stars and things like that. Like, do we want to hold that? And if we don't want to hold it, what do we replace it with? Because you can't take away religion and not add tradition. So if there is no Michelin star, what are we going to replace it with? And as chefs, we got to go, okay, well, finding your purpose in 5 years in business is good. Or finding a proper pay structure, because we know commonly chefs don't even know how to charge. So we haven't even created a union yet. There's so many different layers of how to get to the way we can get all this knowledge in one space and get it transmitted. But it really comes down to defining what information is supposed to be transmitted.
Yeah.
Like it's too many heads talking. We got to go, all right, now let's calm it down to a steady beam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tricky though to get everybody together on the same page, Like I'm really amazed and really happy that we've agreed on everything we've said.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case, Some people will be like, no, that I don't believe in that because I like the, whatever.
Right.
I think part of that is that we need to realize that we have unique gifts that we're supposed to pass on,
right,
as a human and as a chef, right? I think one of the things that I've realized in the last couple of years is that for whatever crazy reason, I was a cook forever. I'm still a cook, and worked in restaurants forever. Then I went and I worked for corporate events, like corporate accounts, like big, giant cafeterias. And then I became a private chef because I just did not fit in. I couldn't have a corporate job, and that was a nightmare. So I left and I started doing my own thing. I realized that that's possible. And through being nice, maybe not nice is not the best word, but just through being genuinely as good of a person as I can possibly be, life rewarded me with this insane things. Like I never thought that I would cook for a professional, athlete. Never thought that in a million years. I grew up in Colombia, poor, you know what I mean? Like watching the NBA, like it was the fucking most amazing thing in the world.
Right. But 2 and 2 never came together up until,
until I realized that. I never realized it until I just, because of my experience, I just opened up and accepted and was just nice, like I had that calm energy to me. And then I started attracting some of these people, these pieces into my life that, gave me the opportunity to do those things. But so now I feel like the message that I want to give the next generation of cooks, like you were saying, is that there are a lot of ways that you can make a living cooking.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways you can make a lot of money. There's that. There's some ways that you can gain a lot of respect by the community, like getting a Michelin star, something like that. But there's something that's very important, which is that and no matter which path you pick, you got to have, I think, a secondary outlet for your creativity.
Right.
Like you need
Most chefs are talented at other things.
Totally. But that's not talked about.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like
every chef I know knows how to do something else really well.
Yeah.
There's not one chef I've ever met where it's like, oh, well, I play the drums, or I know how to paint, or I'm really good at music. I have never met one that hasn't had that creative outlet just shine through in everything that they do, and at least honed it down in one other thing. So like you said, you're completely right. They got to find that other thing.
They got to find it.
Yeah.
And then we need to talk about those things, because I have a problem with the fact that as a society, we put everything in boxes.
Right.
You know, it's like you're a chef. So automatically they picture you cooking and that's it.
Yes.
They remove your power as an artist. They remove your power as a thinker. That's what I think when people are like, that's why I don't necessarily identify as a chef only, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So I have this thing where I have to like dabble in a million different things so people know me for other things too, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in that box. And I think that I want, like, that's something that every time I talk to a chef, I'm going to ask and like bring up and like try to give some strength to that thing,
right?
You know, because like, oh, you're also a writer and you write this amazing poetry. Like, let's talk about that shit. Like, that's cool.
Right. And that's like you're saying, that's the therapy in the chef therapy, because we usually use it as the outlet to get away from that thing that we're naturally good at, you know. And for me, like it's books and it's knowledge, you know. It's that accumulation of, it might not be a recipe, because recipes are so finite, regional, set. They're existing from something that has already come to me. But knowledge is something I can interpret for myself the first time. I can hear something, feel something, and go, well, I didn't get that, and then come back to it and go, oh, now I get it, and add layers to my own imagination when it comes to education and knowledge. But like recipes as a chef, it sets you in a mode, like even working for certain clients, it sets you in a space where these are the only recipes and things that you're doing. So after a while, you don't feel like you're exploring your true potential. So you always have to have that second, like, what is it that I do to get this feeling of creativity out?
Yeah. I think it's hugely important, because in the economy of the future, I read this somewhere. I wish I remember who, so I could give him credit, but it was something like you need to be at the top 20% or 30% of 3 different things. Meaning, like, for example, like I play the drums.
Right.
Now let's say I like to film and I like to cook. Those are the 3 things that I do. So in order for me to be at a level where nobody can compete with me, I need to be at the top 30% level in those parts of my life, right? So in a room of 100 people, I should be in the top 30 of best drummers, in the top 30 of cooks, and the top, you know. So because the reality of life is that you're going to go back and forth between loving to cook and working at this restaurant where it's fucking awesome and you're learning, to you're going to fucking hate it, and you're just going to getting drunk every night, and you're just like down on yourself, and you're like, fuck this, you know, because that's, I think, just something that fucking happens, you know, like you do something too much, and our business is pretty fucking crazy. That's when it's super important to be able to lean on something else so you can regain your balance, and then you can go back to this thing if you choose. You know, because I know a lot of people that are incredible cooks, that were chefs at fancy places, that one day said, fuck it, and they left. And now they're like writing books, or like became teachers in like salsa dancing, you know?
Yeah.
Because they were never balanced. But the world is missing out on them because they were so good at cooking too. Yes. So if you keep both of them up,
right. The world can benefit from both of your talents, or even your family can benefit from it. It's so many different spaces where once you overwork one specific talent and then don't use your creativity to balance it in other places, you start to get burnout. Yeah. So you're really genuinely feeling like, man, well, I am good at this one particular thing, but I'm using it so much that I have other things that I think the world can benefit from. So you start to feel like, well, maybe they're only using me for this, or I'm starting to use it or lose it in a sense. I need to feel like at all spaces, I'm giving the most of myself to the world.
Yeah.
So when people pigeonhole you as a chef or one particular artist, it makes you genuinely feel like like how do I say this? Like as if you aren't contributing the full rainbow. You know, you have so much more to give, and it starts to dull the other colors. Yeah. So that's it's trying to find that full vibrance of who you are and how it works, and the best way to explain, and like we were saying, with transmitting the conversation of who you are. That's the calm. That's the self-awareness, knowing, hey man, like this is how I learned to say who I am. That way people feel you, they understand you, and then the vibrance of who you are comes across. Because it's tough to want to be more than one thing and everybody be okay with that, because their existence is it's kind of based on who you are, you know? So like being able to say, no, I'm a chef, but I also do these things, helps people to allow you to be more and them to see you as more. You know, like I love art. So when I tell people I love art, they're like, man, don't worry about art. You're just a chef. But then you don't get to feel the true artist space of the things that I like about art. And then after a while, I don't want to be a chef anymore because you're totally negating the fact that I love art. So it creates this imbalance and emotional burden on your spirit. So yeah, man, like you're saying, we got to exercise both.
Because I think what people don't realize is that the fact that you like art makes you a better chef.
Right.
You know, the fact that
going to the plate.
Because everything feeds your soul, and that soul is translated into whatever it is that you're doing. You know, that anything you're touching becomes the things that you've experienced.
Right.
You know, both through epigenetics, so like your parents' experiences, your grandparents' experiences.
Right.
That shit's somehow imprinted in us, in our DNA.
Right.
So their wisdom, their mistakes, all that, somehow we have the memories of that. And then we live our experiences, and then we find heroes, and we look up to them, and then we find these things that give us passion. Like Jimi Hendrix to me is like this fucking insane human being. And like, so when I think about him, somehow all that adds up to my soup that I'm making to taste better.
Exactly.
Because of this guy that played the guitar 40 years ago.
Yes. And it's funny that you say that, because I call myself Kenny Hendrix.
Nice.
Because it's the feeling of I make what I make and I create what I create, and for the world, this is who I am. I don't have anything else for you, but it's pretty damn cool. And you might not respect it right now, but later on, when you start looking for the national anthem and who played it the best, you're going to come to me. And, you know, later on, when you start looking for who set a guitar on fire, you're going to, you know, my dishes might not be what people think they should be now. But I know when they look up in the history books of business and art and just being a cool chef, like in all honesty, the difference that I feel with me and everybody else is that they're chasing a world where the best chef is the only criteria. The Michelin star is based on stuff, but they could be a total asshole. Yeah. That's not me. I'm nice. I got straight art skills. I have so many different things. We can talk stocks. We can talk all of this stuff. And I get down in the kitchen. Yeah. So that kind of feeling is where that Hendrix vibe comes in, where I'm an individual artist. I'm just me. And if you want to experience me in the fullness, then hire me as a chef, invite me to an art show, invite me to a concert. It doesn't have to be the cooking medium, because I have so many different things about me that express who I am as a person. And we should be able to be celebrated. We should be able to be accepted in those other communities and spaces, and not be funneled into one thing. Because like you were saying with wisdom and trying to pass this knowledge on, and epigenetics works because it's my direct family. Yeah. So these are things that I feel because they felt them. But how do we get the sense of chef epigenetics? Because all chefs feel the same thing. We all know that. So what is our version of transmorphic epigenetics, where we aren't birthed from the same thing, but we've been through the same chef fire? So how do we gather all of that and say, based on that correlative knowledge, this is the things that we know and we don't want to, you know, like with chefs yelling, like Chef Ramsay is on TV, and that's the last chef, as far as I'm concerned, that I've heard has been passed on from that era of yelling and all of that. We all knew as chefs, that shit's done with. Yeah. In our generation, as soon as we reach of age and we start teaching, you can do away with all that yelling and all that extra bullshit. So it's trying to figure out in what other ways do we add that this is going and this isn't. This is okay, this isn't. These are the garnishes or the things that's cool, and this is what's not. It's finding common ground amongst all of us and saying this is how we feel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I think we're doing that. Doing that, but we do
too.
that. I think the danger in doing that is that the pendulum swings too hard to both sides. You know, it's like it's gonna go this way, it's gonna go that way.
Right.
But right now, I heard somebody say that it's not a pendulum. It's a what do they call that? A wrecking ball.
yeah,
Because it's just fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Which is part of maybe the rebirth of whatever the next thing is.
Right.
You know, so it goes back to accepting maybe, even though it's really
that
hard.
we're the middle of the wrecking ball. Is that the generation before us extremely yelling, the Michelin stars, they were the pendulum of extreme work. And then we're at the bottom of it going, hey, man, there's creativity and foundation. And then it's going to swing hard for the next generation of YouTube chefs and celebrity chefs and the financial toll that it takes on working for some of these athletes now and going into their spaces and not just wanting to be the chef. The pendulum, like you're saying, or the wrecking ball, it's going to swing really hard in a few years when it comes to the chef space.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to look for them, but all we can do, knowing that the pendulum has to swing far, is live in the fact that we are the reality. We are the bottom of it. We haven't gotten to fully exercise our creativity, but we also speak reverence and respect to what is before us. Yeah. So, yeah, like you're saying, man, it's definitely not a pendulum, and it's here to fuck some shit up.
It's going to fuck some shit up.
But I can't wait for what's coming, you know?
Yeah,
I can't wait
true.
for the next generation of chefs and how they decide, like DoorDash and ghost kitchens. Yeah. That's going to be crazy. Like how people just, like if I was in college, I would have decided to just do a pop-up kitchen out of my dorm. Yeah. I know that I'm the best chef when it comes to everybody on this campus. I learned how to do it. And if it's somebody who went to culinary school or knows a grandmother that can cook, show up to your campus as a freshman in college and be like, out of my dorm room, I'm selling plates. Yeah. It's a whole, and it can happen. And then you quit college a year or two in. You know what? I don't want to go here anymore. Yeah. I decided this food is so good, and that's a new pendulum. Yeah. A new pendulum is I was selling food out of my dorm room. Fast forward to I don't want the doctorate anymore. Mm-hmm. I can be a whole full-fledged chef. Like it's wild to think that that's where it's going. But that type of energy needs a foundation. Yeah. Because you can't just jump in and call yourself a chef now. You can't be cooking out your dorm room and then open something and now you're sitting next to me thinking that we're the same. Yeah. We're not. Yeah. You're you and I'm me, and technically you cook, but and we both sell food, but I sell this type of food. Or I do this. That's where I think the pendulum swinging and everybody getting to be accepted is kind of getting tough. Yeah. Everybody ain't a chef. Yeah. You can cook. It's cool, but you're not a chef. Yo. Yeah. Like it don't work like that.
Yeah. I think it comes with this entitlement of, right. Everything should be given to me because I'm so great, you know? Right. And which has a lot of truth in it. Like everyone is great. Yeah. Everyone's unique and everyone's fucking beautiful and amazing. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. You have a right to exist.
Totally. Yeah. Everyone is exactly what this world needs.
Exactly.
But you got to fucking earn that respect,
Period. Period.
If you're going to be telling somebody else what to do, or if you're going to be in any position of authority, you got to legitimize that.
Right.
Because that's something that we have. Like we look up to people that have earned that.
Right.
And then we all know people that have moved up that didn't earn it, and nobody likes those people.
Right. Right. And that goes along with this saying I just heard with all of these castles and kind of kingdom mentality. They say you can't have anything if you can't afford to defend it. So like it's good to have a castle, but if you don't have a moat, then you won't have a castle for long. It's good to say you a cook, but if you can't go up against a chef, then you won't be calling yourself a chef for long. So all of these things that you're doing, they're cute and it's cool, but if you can't defend it with your passion and your honor and your knowledge about the topic, then you really don't have it the way you think you do. Yeah. So that's why I say, man, like it's up to these new cooks to decide to listen and say, hey man, this is the standard that we're going to carry, because that's what quantifies a cook or a chef, or and it separates it from antics. People with social media are legit like licking raw fish and sitting in hot tubs, and it's too much. That's not you're not a chef, man. Like, that doesn't count with what we do. And if it does, then I think we all as a collective need to go, wait a minute, does this count? Like, I didn't know, but that's a part of the pendulum swing.
Yeah.
Where we might not get to determine whether that counts or not. It's like a freestyle. When freestyle was freestyle, where whatever you thought of was what it was. Now a freestyle is literally something that's not on my album. It has no real direction, and it's just me speaking over a beat, and I may have wrote it.
Yeah.
And rappers who used to freestyle are like, that's not a freestyle, but hey, you don't get to determine that no more.
Yeah.
That's not up to you. So if there's a world where we don't get to determine that, well then okay. Yeah. But also you got to know, once you start letting people like that in, then you're going to have some people that can't rap, and now you bigging these people up. So that's up to them. You know what I mean? It all determines that space.
That's
you know
amazing.
What I mean?
That's unbelievable, dude. I think that reminds me of this thing where if you legitimizing your authority, it's a thing. And you let people in that shouldn't be in.
Right.
And it becomes like this battleground of protecting what you think you have earned and what you think you are, whether or not people believe that you are that. That's a different conversation.
Right.
And I think the weapon that can get you through all those things, like the person that's going to go through that battlefield fucking dancing and laughing their asses off, is the cook that is humbled all the way through. Exactly. The one that's like studying all the fucking time and looks up to all these people. And even if he finds defects in these chefs, that person doesn't talk shit. Right. This person understands that they're humans and they're like going through their shit, and you just keep going through that fucking battlefield, and you're not stabbing anybody. And in this scenario, if you're not trying to stab anyone, no one's going to try to stab you.
Exactly.
And they're actually, you'll be their ally. Right. Because you'll be like, dude, this motherfucker is cool. Right. Get over here. Yeah. And then you start creating a team of cool, Yeah. And then they earn that. One of the reasons why I love cooking and I love kitchens and restaurants, especially even though I haven't been in one technically in like 4 years, but the idea of meritocracy. Right. Like, it is really, really easy to smell the bullshit.
Right.
Because right away, you're like, I'm the greatest fucking cook. And then you go behind the line, you get too many tickets. And what happens then?
Right. You start to see them fumble. You start
right
to see
away,
them fall.
You know who they are.
You see their mental change, even down to the mental construct.
Oh, yeah.
How they get stressed or sweating.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest one of all.
The voice changes. And now you're starting to lose stuff and you rattle. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing, dude. And then you see the cooks that have been doing it forever. And you just get murder every night. And you get ticket after ticket. The fucking printer never stops going off. Right. And they're just chilled. They're calling out the orders. Everybody says, yes, chef. Right. And everything's fucking flowing smooth. Right. Oh, it's like a fucking symphony, dude.
Yes. And it's nothing compared to that. And I've had the luxury of working in a couple kitchens where I felt that. Yeah. That sound and that feeling of just like, this is humming. Yeah. Like we can damn near feel the energy of each ticket of the person that ordered it. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, this person likes this, and then they ordered this, would know that. All right, well, they ordered this bottle. Okay, everything's flowing. You start to feel connected to the room without even seeing it, and it's an orchestra that once you're a part of it, you kind of get addicted to wanting to go back to it. Mm-hmm. And like you're saying with meritocracy, you can start to see the soldiers that, oh yeah, you was great on the firing range, but now we out here with these bullets, and you nervous. You know, like knowing that you can live through that fire, it makes you feel different about it. And it, like you're saying, it just separates. And I love being able to separate myself in any room. That's what gives me that calm. It's knowing that, okay, you might ask me to go into a room I've never been in before, but I'm going to need that calm regardless. I cannot leave that at the door. That has to go with me. Yeah. So, And that to me is something that I think you gain, like you're saying, with being humble and knowing that every kitchen is something you got to travel to. Yeah. And I got to, that's what my merch line essentially is about. And it's reflective of Johnny Appleseed. So you know how they say you just walking around and planting seeds, and now that's essentially how apples got all over the world. Just a guy walking around, just Johnny Appleseed. I have a character just called Johnny Chefcoat, where he's a chef and he walk around with his pan, and he got his shorts, he got his chef coat, and he got his pot. And no matter where he goes, if they ask him to fry something, that's what he's gonna do. If they ask him to bake something, that's what he's gonna do. If they ask him to chop, that's what he's gonna do, because that's the situation. Every chef understands traveling, and you can be the highest expediter in the world when you go to one place, and then now you are peeling vegetables in another, and you got to be okay with every station every time, because you're meant to do something in this orchestra, and you might have been the conductor in this one, but today you are playing trombone. Like, are you okay with that? You know, so that's that calm. Like, no matter where I'm at, I can do what I need to do. So that's really what it's going to be about. So yeah, like you saying, man, I'm trying to speak to that with my merch line, about all the chefs are just understanding, like, we all travel, we all unsettled, we're all not okay with the job that we thought we was going to get. We all know that the person that was supposed to prep before us didn't prep everything he said he was supposed to. We know we're going to run out of stuff. We know things are going to not go the way that we want them to. There's never been a night that's even happened in our professional career. Yeah. So as long as we know that, but we still know we cool about it, then that's when we're winning. Yeah. You know, like, that's the thing that we all carry. That's that epigenetics, that cool. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. That's when you have a smile on your face. Like, you hear the printer and it's good. You're just like, let's go, baby.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. It's all here. We can do this.
I had that experience with my friend Eric. Have you been to the Flying Fish restaurant?
No, but down
we got to go. I got to take you there. Yeah. Everything on their menu is fucking fire. Everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And my friend Eric is the guy that runs the show there. And we opened the restaurant together. My friend Leaf, he's the guy that owns the place.
Yeah.
He is the luckiest guy ever, because he has Eric. And then I was there for a couple of months for the opening. And we had a couple of weeks to write the menu, to get everything ready, to hire everyone. It was just Eric and I. This hot new restaurant. It was called like the hottest new restaurant in Portland or whatever.
Right.
And we just got fucking murdered from day one, like crazy. Yeah. And it was just Eric and I behind the line. We had never cooked this menu. Yeah. We had never cooked together, ever.
Right.
Yet, fucking tickets are coming out. Everything's coming out smooth.
Right.
You know, some bumps here and there, obviously.
Right, yeah.
Both of us kept it cool.
Right.
And it was the best fucking feeling ever, which is, like, there's a certain level where, like, you have that swag to you, and like,
right, and you build a bond with somebody. You could have never met that chef a day before, but when you go into the war with them, and when you get into the weeds, and you create this, I could really trust them.
Yes,
like, okay, I can cook this, and I can turn my back, and they're really not going to burn this, or they're going to pay attention to it the way I do. Then when you're cleaning up, you like, man, do you need a drink? What's going on? Like, how are your kids? You start feeling connected to that person. That's a universal bond of the cool.
Yeah. You know, like, you go to battle, and you were watching each other's backs.
Right.
And then you come out on the other side, and you're like, dude, cheers, thank you. Like, now we're like eye to eye.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's a beautiful thing, and it translates to the entire world, you know, because you meet people like that. Like, I had a fucking crazy, I wrote about this. I think I wrote a little blog on my website about this. I was walking through Beaverton. Late at night, it was like 11 p.m. or something, and I was walking around with my daughter, and she was maybe 2 years old, right? And so I'm holding her hand, and we were returning some books at the library right there in the downtown. And so we parked the car, we were walking around, and then I noticed this kind of sketchy person coming out from behind a tree, you know, and we keep walking, and this person is following us, and in my mind, I'm like, get ready to fight, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, you know? Yeah. And I'm like kind of looking at this person, and they look a little sketchy, you know? I remember they had like these leather jacket with spikes, and it's just like, you know, unique character. And then we stop at the light. So there's like the little hand that says, don't cross the street. And then he stops right next to me, you know, and like my adrenaline is like fucking crazy, you know, because my little girl, my 2-year-old girl is next to me. And so I look at the guy. And then he looks at me, and he says, he's like, oh, I don't want to cross the street yet, because I don't want to give your daughter a bad example.
Right.
Because I wasn't supposed to cross. Right. And he could have crossed the street because there was no cars coming. Right. But instead he did the right thing. And in that moment, it was like I was slapped. I was like, I was judging this guy.
Right.
And he just did one of the most fucking beautiful things ever.
Right.
And he disarmed me completely.
Right.
You know? And like that moment changed my life.
Right.
The simplest fucking thing. It's like, it's easy to judge, obviously, in that situation. And it's normal and understandable that I was ready to fight because I'm a protector.
Yeah.
But then it turns out that I had nothing to worry about. And the humanity in this weird guy in downtown Beaverton at 11 p.m. Turns out that seeing a dad with his daughter brought out the best in him. Right. And he did the best possible thing he could have done.
Right.
You know?
And that's the same way, like I tell people, like what you're talking about is similar to The Bear, that show.
Yes, I love
where
that.
Your restaurant is your child. It's your baby. So when you're expecting people who are coming in and they look like they're not here to do well, or they look like they're just looking for a job, or looking like there's an angle, you want to almost protect your restaurant. You want to protect your crew. You want to protect everything that you have with all that you can. And then when someone comes in and they're like, oh, I'm just here to help. I know I look weird, but I'm cool. I can actually do the job. Then it totally disarms you and allows you to trust them. Yes. And that trust it's exactly like how you just phrased it when it comes to the kitchen, because all of the chefs are never going to look orthodox. They're never going to. We all have this thing about us. So you got to see them and see them like the person with spikes and be like, okay, you say you're a chef, but I don't see it. I see weird, you know, and then they come in and they're like, oh no, I'm the greatest prep chef there ever was. Yeah. And it totally, like you said, it disarms you in a way to feel like, damn, I really have nothing to worry about, even though I usually do. Because that's our anxiety. That's our natural feeling. Yeah.
Well, my favorite people in the world are like the craziest looking ones, like the ones that like everyone's uncomfortable around. I'm like, those are my people.
They get down. Yeah.
Oh, because they're unique and they're not scared of being unique, you know, like they have these bravery about them. So like we should look up to them for being.
And they know when their light shines. So it's like, I may be weird in one particular space, but if you get me to do, it's like it was Lady Gaga early on, where it was really, I'm weird and I'm eccentric and I do all of these things, but if I get behind a microphone or if you let me write a song, then I can show you why I allow myself to go this far. You see people who are, and like Kanye is attempting to right now, where he has this genius in him, but he wants us to allow him to go to a certain level that, okay, now you're getting a little too crazy. Like you're wearing too much of it on your sleeve, you know, like, so he is the imbalanced version of that thing. Yeah. So we want someone who, you kind of right where you need to be, but slightly off. You know, like you look like you should do something else, or you shouldn't have a job at all. So chef is the thing you chose. You know, like you don't have to be around people, and it's the tattoos, it's the language, it's the energy, it's the showing up on time for work or not, but knowing I might be late, but you know why I'm here. You know what I mean? Like it's all of those spaces that you have to accept that come with chefs, that are the things that will scare you, but they're also the things that you celebrate and what makes them great. Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the greatest memories in kitchens for me are the most fucked up, crazy individuals ever that were rough. Like this guy is the first one that comes to mind. His name is Nicho. And he is as rough, like out of prison, like you look at me, I'll break you in half type of guy. Right. But the guy's got the biggest heart in the world, and he's the greatest worker, and he's all about respect and honor and honesty, and like he's like the values that were respected the most in our previous generation. He embodied those. He was about honesty and manlyhood, but he was a fucking crazy gangster dude that, you know, like I'd be like, hey, Nicho, I need you to, you know, chop up some lettuce really quick. And he's like, go fuck yourself. Right. And I'd be like, thank you, Nicho. And then I'd come back and he did all the lettuce I needed plus some fucking tomatoes because he noticed they were missing, you know? Right. Just a beast. Yeah. And he's saying it like, I know, and I know I'm me, but And I can say this because after, I'm going to get it done. You know that the appearance and the verbiage that I'm using is solely to respond in my most natural way. But it doesn't mean that the work isn't going to get done. This is me speaking my most authentic language. Yeah. And like you're saying, man, speaking to people who are authentically themselves, the way they express themselves is what you have to accept, as well as the quality of work, because it comes together. So you got to find those people that are just that far off kilter, because their work is impeccable.
Totally, because there's not one without the other.
Right.
You get the whole package.
Right.
At some point, this guy I'm telling you about, Nicho, he left the U.S., he went back to Mexico, and he sent me one day, like out of nowhere, what sounded like a drunk love note.
Right.
And he was like, dude, like, Andre, I respected you so much. And, like just a really nice thing. And I was like, fuck, like this guy must be so high,
Right. Like,
he would never say that shit. He would be like, fuck you and your ugly face, whatever he would normally say. And so I questioned him. I was like, dude, why, what are you, And so he was going through a rough time.
Yeah.
And he decided the best thing he could do is to send letters or emails or whatever to the people, very positive emails or messages to the people that he respected, because that good energy coming out of him, he knew was going to make that depression, whatever the evil that was taking over him, that was going to leave sooner if he experienced appreciation and all that. So he sent me this beautiful letter, which is really cool. And then we started talking about it, and I was like, dude, like, why, at what point did you start feeling this? Like, how did I earn that? Because earning that from somebody like him is nearly impossible. Right. This guy's a gangster, you know what I mean? Like, you got to do something really legit in order to gain their respect. And so he said that at some point, and I don't remember this happening, but apparently he was going to get fired because he did something. And I was the executive chef there. So I went to the district manager and I was like, over my dead body, like, this is my dude. If you fire him, I'm going with him. I don't remember ever saying this.
Right.
But that's what he said that I said. And he said after that moment, he knew that he was going to have my back forever because I had his.
Right. And it's funny because in his verbiage, he probably heard it as that, but you probably might have just heard that somebody was getting fired or something was about to happen. You're like, oh man, well damn, don't do that. I really kind of need. You might have said it in a roundabout way. Yeah. And you know what I mean? You could have impacted him in a way that he think is very direct. Yeah. But that's the juxtaposition of a person like that. They have to feel like, I know I'm being an asshole. So if it ever comes around where I need to balance the scales, I have to go back and go, hey, I was just joking, in case I don't know if you was taking me serious or not, but I really do respect you. I really do care. I don't want you to think that I don't care, when in actuality in your mind, you're like, well, I always cared, or I never thought that you felt differently about me. But that's what comes with that level of eccentricity, is that's like with the manic energy of Kanye, is that he's going to come back around and apologize and be like, hey, I was sorry. I was joking. I didn't mean to make it seem as if I don't care about this. I was just doing this. I was trying to make this thing happen. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. So sometimes when you're doing good, or like when it's a chef situation like that, you can see the genuine nature in it. Yeah. In Kanye's, that remains to be determined. But I feel like that when you meet people like that and you speak up for them and you make them feel seen and identified when they're being their true selves, but knowing that that true self can potentially harm them in a professional space, they feel like they can go to war with you. They feel more connected to you because you're defending their creative mind as well as their livelihood sometimes, because they can't, there's no way he could go to Kinko's and, can I get 20 copies? Man, go fuck yourself. They're gonna be like, wait, we're in the office. Like, you can't do that here. So people like that need spaces where they can give outlets that don't negate who they are naturally, which is someone who wants to be vulgar because they find it funny. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not a good or a bad person. It's just,
it's funny.
On me, it's funny. And if you don't find it funny, that's okay. But let me be me. And that's just,
Dude, one day I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite people ever, who is a person that definitely comes to mind always when I think about like loving somebody that is so fucking crazy and being like so outside of what you think, what society thinks that is acceptable, yet you find the most incredible, like genuine, like, I don't even know how to describe, like so much beauty inside of a human being, regardless of how they present themselves. You know, right. I've encountered many of these, obviously, in kitchens. One of them, I don't know if I should be mentioning names, so maybe I won't. But this guy is this rapper, super fucking talented guy. And he is tattooed, like every inch of his body is tattooed. His ears, his face, like everything. Mm-hmm. And he shaves his head. And like, this guy couldn't get a job in many places. Right. And so he was hired by my chef that I was working for back then, Ingrid, who is also my fucking favorite person ever. And she called me. She's like, hey, I hired this guy. He's a little bit rough around the edges, but you're really going to love him. And so I meet this guy. And then because automatically I know that the best way to treat a human being is to treat them like a fucking human being. Right. And not because he looks like he's going to stab me in the neck, right. You know? Right. And so I give him that respect of being like, look, I'm looking at you in the eye, you know, and like, we're going to build this relationship together because I have to be your manager. Right. You got to respond well to that. But I have to earn that respect too, because it goes both ways. Right. And I love that interaction with people. And so I became pretty good friends with that guy. And then this other guy that comes to mind, his name is Dan. And I want to make a documentary about this guy. Yeah. He is one of the most incredible human beings that you'll ever meet in your life. And he's a fucking psycho. Yeah. There's no other way of describing this dude. Right. It's hard for me to... The last time that we hung out, we went to his house. And he's the type of person that you're like... It's like, you know that a hurricane is coming through town, and the first time you stick around and then you weather it out. Yeah. But then the second time you're like, I'm getting out of town because I learned my lesson. Yeah. When you hang out with Dan, it's like that. It's like the first time, and then you're like, fuck, if I hang out with Dan, shit's going to go down. Like some crazy shit's going to happen. Yeah.
I'm thinking of somebody I know like that right now.
Right? Like, we know this person that you're like, fuck, I need to avoid this guy at all costs. However, I love him because of exactly that thing. Exactly. You like peel the layers and you find this.
You're a great asset for that.
Oh my God, dude. I love that kind of person.
Right.
And I swear to God, I'm going to do a documentary about this guy, because what I see one of the most genuine, most beautiful, amazing human beings in the world. But that's not what he's trying to show you. Right. He's trying to show you this fucked up fucking dude.
Because he means well, but at the same time, it's some, and it's crazy. Like to watch that movie, I can imagine some B-roll of where that all started for him. Yeah. And where where that, like Ricky Bobby's dad, how he's like, oh, everything's cool. I guess I just got to mess something up. You know what I mean? Like where that in your mind starts that things are not going well or they're going too well. How do I maintain this level of defense? How do I maintain this level of, like you're saying, responding instead of, yes, Seth, go fuck yourself. Like, where does it when did that day start where I decided, you know what, my way of saying, sure, I'll do that became an insult. You know, like for people, there is a day for them that's something to switch, that this is now the way we communicate. Yeah. Like, so I'm interested in watching Dan.
And it's that you're going to fucking love this guy. He's a fucking nutcase. For me, one of the greatest experiences of my life, and that was kind of that birth moment for me to start becoming a little bit of a rougher person on the outside, is that when I was a kid, I was a really, really bad kid, really disrespectful because I just wanted answers. And I was kicked out of the school that I went to. That was a private school. That was a nicer school. And then from what I understand, the lady that owned that school knew everybody else that owned other schools in the town or something like that, because I wasn't allowed to go into just about any school. Like nobody wanted to take me in. So my dad had to make a deal with the school, like the most ghetto school in the town where I lived. He said, I'll paint a mural, multiple murals, if you take my kid. Like, please take my kid, you know?
Right.
And so the school needed to beautify the space, and they thought it's a good idea, you know, to make the school less fucking crazy.
Right.
And so they took me into the school. So I went to like from a private school that wasn't a nice school, but it was like a private school, to a school where like kids would stab each other.
Yeah.
You know, where there were like gangs, where like violence was actually a thing, where like you had to be careful. And we're talking about kids. This is like 8th grade, you know?
Right.
And so for me, that was a shock when I started there, how scary it was for me to go from the comfort of a tiny little private school to this place where like fucking anything goes. And I would go home and I would cry to my mom, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to the school. Like, I'm scared. I'm going to get beat up or something. And my mom was like, whatever, dude. Like, it's life. Go. And she like didn't even entertain my fear or try. She's like, it's life, dude. Go over there. You'll be fine. Like, I know who you are, you know, and you'll be fine. And so what happened in that time is that I ended up learning the greatest skill that I possess today, which is that I know how not to get stuck in one group or the other group. Like, I am able to manage being in the middle and not joining a gang. Like I've learned different ways of earning the respect of both sides, you know, through like arming myself with these things that I preach all the time, like honesty and like being calm, which you embody. Like I was like trying to do those things as a kid. So both sides would be like, oh, Andres cool, you know?
Right.
And I did it also by being super fucking terrible in school. And in my school,
they're like, he can't be too good if he's doing that bad.
Yeah, they were like, I respect this kid because he doesn't give a fuck.
Right. He obviously doesn't care.
Yeah, I made that super clear because we had our school was in the shape of like an O. And so every classroom was on the outside of a basketball court. It was like one basketball court and all classrooms that went. And, you know, so what I would do, this is how I earn everyone's respect in there. I got into an argument with one of the teachers, and they're like, well, if you don't like it, then you can leave right now. And I was like, oh, cool. All right. And so I grabbed my basketball and my friend, I had one friend there, Orjuela, Jose Luis Orjuela, fucking crazy motherfucker. And I was like, hey, I called him Josefo. I was like, Josefo, come on, dude, let's go play some basketball. And he's like, all right, let's go. So he gets up, we go outside, and we start playing basketball. And every single kid is in class. And so they hear somebody dribbling the ball outside, and everyone's looking out through the window. And he's like, who the fuck is crazy enough to be playing right now?
Everybody can see.
Yeah. And my teacher comes out and he's like, get back in the classroom. And we were like, whatever, dude. Just kept playing. And so everyone in the school is like, oh, fuck. These kids don't give a fuck, you know? Like, don't fuck with them because they clearly are like a different breed.
Right.
And turns out both, you know, Josefo and I were these super gentle souls, but we were just scared to have to join the wrong side, you know?
Right. But you, like you're saying, you showed the calm so that the other animals in the animal kingdom were like, hey, man, like, all right, well, if I have to fight him, then it's going to be a fight. And most times that's what keeps you alive. Because it was the same way with me. At about 10, I ended up moving to Arizona. And so being in Oakland is one thing where the only white person I had ever saw was like maybe one or two of my teachers when I grew up in Oakland. I didn't know anything about other cultures. It just wasn't like that. It was Oakland in the 80s and 90s. So it was just all black people essentially. And then I moved to Arizona, and now it is a heavy Hispanic community, heavy white population, high racism, real country kind of vibe. Like, I'm not used to any of this at all. So the energy and the calm that I had to keep when I didn't even know anything about how long like Mexican cartels, like narcos and things like that, I didn't even know that there were things to be respected like that. Like learning about certain people that wear, I'll say, skin, like animal skin belts and shoes and the size of them and how big they are and the buckles, and learning all of those things was something that you had to learn in a calm space, because if you learned them and you reacted to them, then it could mean a lot more things for you than what you thought. So translating from one space of survival and then going into a whole nother space of survival, but the things you needed to know were different. I had to go in calmly and not say, this is who I am, this is what I represent, this is what I mean about life. It's like, nah, man, when in Rome, you need to know how to do things. You need to know how to act a certain way. Or if you are approached, or if there's something that's going to happen, then let it happen the way it's supposed to. You know, don't shy away from it, because that's a part of the survival space, is that you got to exist and stand your ground when approached. But going in, I knew there's so much about this city and space that I had to respect. You know, it was like new plants and new animals and new things. It's like, all right, well, let me get used to this land, and let me make sure that, like you saying, the calm that you have. So no matter what city, what teacher, what opponent, I mean, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to let everybody know that this is how cool I am while I'm doing it. And if this is any kind of indication of what you think you're going to get from me, then let this be clear that I'm cool. I'm here to do what I'm going to do. And if this goes any direction, I'm here for that too. You know, so like, it's having that in the kitchen, having it in life, having it for yourself, you know, being in these, like with my trainer, we do boxing classes and things like that. So I know my physical capabilities. So I walk in the rooms really relaxed. Like I know what I can do. I know what I can and can't accomplish, or where I feel fear. So as long as I'm prepared mentally, I understand where I am and the things that I've done to amplify the situation. You know, like if I haven't done anything to amplify it and it goes where it goes, then hey, God bless you. But if I'm doing something to cause it, then it's essentially my fault. You know what I mean? It's like being at the zoo and jumping in the cage. If I was at the zoo and everything was cool, then everything is cool. If I jump in the cage, then that's my fault. If I put myself in harm's way, if I start speaking in a manner of, if I use the go fuck yourself in the world, well, I don't know that that's okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you can have calm, but you can also be stupid. Yeah. So like, you got to learn where those two things don't intersect.
And you'll learn really fast
if
you're stupid.
Really fast if you're stupid. It'll
the world will teach you. Quickly. That's one of the things that I think are important about being a parent. Is that you got to teach your kids before society teaches your kid.
Right.
Because they will fucking teach them. If they're disrespectful, if we don't teach our kids today that shit's not okay, then the world is going to teach them that shit's not okay, you know? And it's not going to be pretty.
No remorse.
So it's a challenge for us to like really fucking be strict, yet super loving and supporting and all that, but not losing our authority, you know?
Yeah, it's almost teaching them to respect the lack of intellect, because if they wanted to know anything, they could ask us a question and then look up Google actively while we're thinking about it. Yeah. And get an actual answer from a computer and then wait on our answer and fact check it. Yeah. So we're almost asking them to honor what we know. Yeah. Like, hey, as a parent, man, this is what I know. So if you look at the computer or if you feel differently, I respect that, but I'm giving you my perspective on it. I'm giving you how I feel with the honesty and the vulnerability of what I can. Because like you're saying, man, it's only so much I can do from the honesty space as a parent. Yeah. But I know that it's easily challenged. It's easily combated with so many different things that are around to give you opposition nowadays. So the best person I can be is of good sound mind and body, so that you know I'm answering from my place. And this is the best place I can answer. Now, if we both looking at Google, then let's both answer the question together. But that's going to allow the fact that I was able to look at it too. Mm-hmm. So the only answer I can give you is what I know until we start adding more stuff to that. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's, like you're saying, it's tough as a parent to be able to translate that without feeling like you're going to get belittled based on how much you know or don't know. Yeah. Because their advancement of knowledge is way quicker than ours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Forget it. We can't compete.
It's crazy to think, even now that I'm talking, like I'm thinking of my kid and how fast he is when at first I was the kid thinking of how much computer knowledge I had over my mom. Yeah. Like, oh man, I got the internet in my library at high school, and I know you didn't have that. So the things I can look up, the stuff you can tell me or not tell me, now they have that in their phones at their fingertips. Like, it's information, and it's lack thereof. It could be information, it could be entertainment, it can be what they decided it is. Yeah. You know, when we had access to it, we were looking for the information that we wanted. Now they're getting flooded with things that they didn't even ask for.
Yes.
Like, it's just here. This is a part of what you're looking at. We're just, things that they're not interested in are becoming commercial breaks for them.
Yeah.
So we have to really be, like you're saying, on point with how we deliver the message and how open we are with them, because we know, and we're the first generation to admit that we don't know. You know, like, we know that, hey, man, we're sorry. We don't know this. Or we're trying hard. You know what I mean? We're giving it our all.
Dude, that's really deep, because what you're asking them to do is to honor this thing that we've experienced that is non-tangible.
Right.
So
it's not even real.
It's not even real.
Right.
Because nothing is real anymore unless it's on Google, right?
Exactly.
So they have to believe. It's almost like believe in God. It's different, but it's believe in something that I cannot touch.
Right.
But it's something that exists. Like, my life existed. I was here the whole time.
Right.
Shit was real.
Exactly.
But it's not real, because I can't fucking, unless I make a movie about it or something.
Right.
And so you're asking them to believe in something that weirdly for them almost it's not real.
Yes. My dad used to say, prove yesterday happened. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was there. You were there. He was like, no, we weren't. What do you mean? And he's basically saying that his experience is, well, you saw me there yesterday. But if my experience is I never saw you, then you can't prove to me that it happened. Yeah. So it's that same concept of, like, we're asking them to believe that the yesterday that we lived in and existed in really happened. Like, no, listen, there was a girl named Britney Spears and she was dope, and then she dated this dude named Justin Timberlake. It all happened, I swear to God. Yeah. And it was a Michael Jackson, and they're like, yeah, okay, we see the remnants of it, or we see evidence of it, but we don't see what you see. Yeah. So we're asking them to respect a world where we built rules and concepts and high school constructs of the jock and the nerd. We're asking them to respect that. Like, and there was a movie, The Breakfast Club. Like, we're asking them to respect the movies that we saw in the way that we grew up, even though we know it doesn't exist anymore. It is an antiquated thought, but it doesn't have, because we did a horrible job of documenting it too, it doesn't have nearly as much dictatorial impact. There is no real, like with the Bible, there's written word of what happened and how everybody should generally feel about that. I think the 80s, 90s, and 2000 portion, we really didn't write about it. We really didn't go, hey, man, I think this is going to be the change of the future. We were just existing in it. We didn't sit down and go, yo, we are on the cutting edge of analog to computer. And then we got to experience from analog to computer to digital. Like, now it's not even just basic computer stuff. It's everything is fiber optic. You know, like, we are in that middle space where it really should have been talked about. So all these kids are doing are existing in the world where they benefit from what we had to live through. Yeah. And then we're saying, can you please hear us? And they're like, no, we can't, because we're moving too fast. Sorry. Based on the stuff that you gave us, we're headed this way. We are not headed backwards. Yeah. We don't care nothing about what you're talking about. Yeah. But we are going, please, what we're talking about will help you in the future. Yeah. But don't look that way. Even though we gave you everything and the power to look way beyond, we need you to look back in some space. And it's hard, like you say, it's hard being the adults where just, I know we're not smart. I know that they're doing new math. I know that they're doing new things and that, and you know, the jokes we used to tell in the cancel culture, I get it. But we also got some stuff to offer that we need you to take with you. Yeah. So, man.
Every generation, man. I feel like we sound like our parents sounded and their parents sounded. And they always said the same thing. They need to listen to us because we know.
We know.
Yeah, and it's always been true. And it is more true today than it's ever been.
Right.
And right now, the world is changing so fucking fast. The disconnect is that much more. Right. Because before, the fear of my kids are going to end up doing this because the printing press came out.
Exactly.
As opposed to the internet and every fucking thing in the world in their pockets.
Right.
It's two completely different things. So now our concern, I believe, although everyone has said this, is more real now because the consequences are more real.
Right. And the printing press back in the day used to only print what people felt was truth or paid enough to be lies. Yeah. So it's either we're printing the dictionary or it's going to be whatever version of Carnival flyer or thing. So it always had some sense of usage. Now people don't have to print anything, so they can say anything they want. The new version of the printing press now has words and phrases and comments and tweets, and it has memes. Like memes don't even have to, it's a meme is an artistic expression of someone's opinion, but if it's popular enough, it becomes fact. So that's the new printing press. The new printing press we exist in is like, no, wait, don't believe that I know it looks smart and it looks like that's a good idea, or, ooh, that looked like he's spitting. No, like we need you to know and decipher what is truth versus what is socially acceptable as a good idea or a good comment or a good comeback. Like we didn't get to see the comments on a news article if you picked it up. You just read the New York Times and then you put it down. You absorbed the information for who you were, and that's where you left it. You might have had a conversation with a couple people that you know, and then when NewYorkTimes.com come out, you can read it, but it's still coffee shop, is water cooler. You read it on .com online, but you're passing it here. There was a time where it was just reading it and absorbing it online, but not being able to comment. Now you can go to an article, read the article, and then below that article, people who didn't even really fully read it can comment their opinions on it, which adds more information to this thing that you're reading now. It makes it different. So like it changes the whole world for the next generation. And that's what I think we're able to pass on. Knowing truth from lie, real from fake. We can tell like with surgeries and like now the BBLs and body morphing, it's okay, which isn't a problem, but we can tell. We're trying to explain to you, we can tell the difference. So you need us to be able to help you navigate that space that says, hey, don't believe that hype. Don't believe the comments. Don't believe the tweets. Just read the article for the information and let everything else go. It's the space that we got to enjoy that I hope they find when they log off, when they have kids, when the next generation has to separate from, or if they ever do. I'm interested to see that. If this generation that's constantly doing TikToks and all of that, if they ever, as they age into their 60s and stop, what if they go all the way their entire life making social media posts and doing dances and doing things to go viral from birth to death?
I think it's possible, but I think it'll be it depends on what reason they're doing it for is. I think if you are addicted to doing dances and posting your dances, and then you see the benefit of that is the fact that you're dancing,
right?
Then you're gonna get to live 100, and hopefully you're still doing that because what you wanted to do was to dance,
right?
And it just happens that you live in the part of history in which you can film it and post it, and people like it, and you can somehow even make money,
right?
So if the reason why you're doing it is because you're dancing, then I think that's what we need to make sure that we are doing. Like the reason why we want to do anything is for really no reason other than we're alive and we should do this thing because right now this thing feels good to do, and go back to the Charles Bukowski's quote, don't try. In that moment you feel like dancing and you have your phone, film it, dance it. But in the future, I think that those who did that because they needed that dopamine shot of the likes and the shares and this, if that was the motive behind your dancing videos, then I think sadly those people will get sick and those people won't be happy, because they were chasing the wrong thing.
Will they continue to do it? Will they do it all
Probably.
the way
I think so, because I think it's an addiction.
Like we as a generation, our parents watched us play video games, and we as adults now buy the new PlayStation just like kids. So we buy the new Xbox, the new PlayStation. Gaming is a part of the adult life.
Yeah.
All the way through, because it's been a part of our childhood. So now as kids, gaming and social media is a part of their life from childhood. So they won't know it. They'll know social media as a relaxation tool, just like we knew video games as a relaxation tool. Yeah. But the difference between social media and video games is that I can play video games with a controller. With social media, to contribute to that, I actually have to physically do something. Yeah. I got to post me being somewhere or doing something or recording, or you're creating this activity space that wouldn't exist otherwise, but for the fact that I want to consume this too. Like, I don't have to dribble a basketball to play 2K. But in social media, if I want to absorb social media and enjoy it to its fullest extent, I have to participate in some way. So it's going to be crazy to watch these kids go, all right, on my deathbed, this selfie is going to be fire. Like, I would have never imagined that being the truth, but I know that it's going to happen. Yeah. And this next generation's day and age, they're going to die with a selfie. They're going to die with the, here I am on the cliff, or this is me doing these things. Like, their entire life is built around the idea that watching me do what I'm doing is the cooler part of actually doing it. So it's just an interesting thing to think about.
The digital reality is more real than the real reality.
Right.
It's a fucking trip.
Yeah, and they really mean it.
Do you obsess over the future? Like, do you think about the future a lot? Do you go through periods in which you do?
I think about the future all the time, and the number one thing that I think about the future is how cool it's going to be, and how cool the fact that I won't be there.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that I'm not in that part of it, because that part of it wasn't for me. That part is for other people. It's like the dinosaurs. You know, the dinosaurs don't know we're here. So even if they did exist and it was millions of years ago, whether people believe that or don't, that's why I say even if. The fact that something happened millions of years ago and we can't quantify it now is really cool. Yeah. So something can happen 50 years, you know, like a full ecosystem of animals and plants and birds and things that was eating other things, and it was as tall as the buildings that we see now, existed at one point, and we know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. So 50 years from now, it's the same thing. You know, I've went to cities that I used to live in, and I go back now. Like, I go back to Arizona now, and there are new freeways that I've never seen before. So time is moving to the future with or without you. You are living in the future, because when you go from one place to another, the last time you saw it was the past. So if you go to Disneyland and the last time you saw it was 10 years ago, then you're living in the past. The Disneyland you see now is of the future. Yeah. It's going to have different rides, different attractions, different kids like different things now. So we constantly live in the future, and we always get a chance to think about it. Just start thinking about it earlier. Like, dang, how dope is 10 years from now going to be? And then when 10 years from now comes, you go, damn, this is pretty dope. I kind of like this. And now go 100 years. And all of that is not promised. So thinking 100 or thinking 10, all of it the same way is not promised to you. You don't get either one. So think of all of the future that you want and love the fact that you can do that you even have the time. That's back to the Socrates thing. Is that Socrates sat and said, damn, in the future, they might be able to talk to people that isn't even standing next to them. They could be in one room. I wonder how they're going to get that done. I don't know, but I know as humans, we're going to do it. And now we do it, no problem. And he never got to see it, but I guarantee you he thought about it. So we think about stuff and we will never get to see it, but I guarantee you it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
And that's fun. Like,
it is really fun.
Wow, like, dang, there's going to be a bullet train from New York to L.A. Maybe take about 90 minutes. Yeah. We won't get to see it, but they're going to do that shit. They're going to do it.
Probably.
It's going to happen, you know?
I'm glad that your outlook is so positive, dude.
Man,
that inspires me, because when I think about the future, sometimes I get a little jaded. Not really, because I'm also deep in my heart, I'm just an optimist like a motherfucker. Like I'm a lover and somebody that's just like looking for things that make me smile and make me feel alive, you know?
Right.
But when I think about the future, I think ever since I became a parent, it scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
But not because I think anything bad's going to happen, but because I know that I don't know.
Right.
You know, before you could, you know, our previous generations could say with some level of certainty in 20 years, things are going to be about the same. But right now we can't say that.
Right.
And out of, you know, one of the things that happens, I think, naturally when you have kids is that you love them so much that you're scared for them, you know, and like you have this fear that they're going to have to go through something hard or something.
Right.
I think that's what I mean when I think about the future. It's like I think about like some books that I've read, like Yuval Noah Harari's books. He's got Sapiens, which is one of my favorite books. And then Homo Deus is the second one. So like we go from Homo sapiens, wise men, to Homo Deus, like God men. So we're going to evolve into this. We're going to replace religion to thinking that we are this new religion. And he examines the future, what he thinks is going to happen. It's actually a really fair way of looking at things just based on what's happening today.
Exactly.
He's a historian, so like he knows his shit.
Right.
And when you read that book, it's like, it's just a roller coaster of emotions, because you're like, well, some stuff is sounding really good. Some stuff is sounding pretty fucking
Morbid.
dystopian and weird, you know? It's like kind of like when you watch Black Mirror.
Right.
And it's like, oh shit, like, yeah, that could totally happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Man, like Love, Death, and Robots.
I haven't seen that.
Oh my God. Watch Love, Death, and Robots.
I'm going to write that down because I'll forget.
Yes. And it's exactly about that. It's just shorts about dystopian futures.
Okay. What is it called again?
Love, Death, and Robots.
Okay.
And it's one of the things where I love watching them. So every time they come out, I am glued to the TV.
Nice.
So when they had the first season, it's a bunch of mini episodes. And it's just about what the future could be like and how people feel and the things that they connect to. And I don't even want to ruin it for you because it's something that's an individual experience.
Nice.
But like the things that you're scared of, yeah, okay, they're going to happen. But you won't be here. You know, like it's okay, the ocean is going to swallow up the United States. You won't see it. So what they do to solve that for their problems and how their ecosystem works is all up to them anyway. Yeah. And the amount of knowledge that they'll have to combat that will be futuristic. They will fix that.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? Like, so the same way with the future, I also think of the people that live in it. I'm not there, and they're not dumb. They're not me. They've been living in what they've been living in for a mighty long time. So the experience that they're going to have about the things they're going to fix and how long they're going to take to fix it is going to be way different than ours. You know, like, I don't see it being as much of a terror. You know, like we have global information now. So with global information and awareness of global warming and trash being in the middle of the ocean and everyone being aware of it, it's going to be different than when they handle it. And when they do, it's going to be cool to think about what all of that looks like. But it's comforting knowing that it's not necessarily my problem.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't fix 100 years from now.
No.
In no way, shape, or form. And it's not even my job to live for that long.
Yeah.
It's only my job to experience this space and cultivate this space as much as I can and not harm it to where 100 years from now doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we can do. We can make sure that 100 years from now, there is still an earth to live on.
Yeah. But
we also can't fix whatever the presidential problems are, how many entertainers we've elected for president now. Yeah. By the time in 100 years, how many more presidents do you think will be that are entertainers?
I think moving forward, that's pretty much what we got.
Right. So now think like every 4 years we elect another one. And if we elected another one, every 4 years is 25 different presidents that could happen in 100 years. So if they all didn't have 2 terms, and some of those are entertainers, out of 25 presidents, how many of those do you think are actually entertainers? Like The Rock.
Yeah.
What if The Rock became president?
Yeah.
And in your mind, you're like, that could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. Yeah.
The Rock could go, I'm running for president.
Yeah.
Because you love me. Like,
yeah.
and everybody said, Ronald Reagan? Nah. Yeah. Donald Trump? Nah. And we're talking about The Rock right now. You're like, The Rock? Crazy.
I know.
But at the same time, your brain acclimates to, I might be saying President Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
So, like that's a future where, yeah, it could be cool, but man, that's far down the road. And you won't even know that celebrity's name by then. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know half of the celebrities now that are half my age. Yeah. So even as that future comes and they elect whoever that new person, I won't know them. I won't know why they're famous or, you know. So future is happening right in front of you and you still don't know anything about it. Yeah. You know, it's not our job to. Yeah. I love it, but.
It's like a dance with chaos and total craziness.
Right.
But yet you're still dancing, so you still have some type of control.
Right. You're on beat.
Yeah, you're on beat. As long as chaos and you are on beat, then it's good. You're not stepping on me. I'm not stepping on you.
Exactly. The second it gets off beat and chaos step on your toes or you get a little wiggly, that's when it gets crazy. But that dance with chaos is cool. Yeah. As long as both of you are on beat. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's wise, dude. Dude, Kenny, this has been like one of the best conversations of my life, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's been super fun, dude. It's so cool to listen to you. Your wisdom, dude, is amazing. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
You taught me a lot.
Yeah, this is awesome. I want to have this conversation many more times.
Let's do it. I'm here for this.
Cool.
Yeah, man. This would be dope.
This is awesome, dude. Like, I had so much more fun than I thought that I could have. It's so cool. Yeah. Like, I knew, but then it was more than that. So,
right. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's all good.
Dude, I feel like we just recorded a podcast and we were not even aware of the fact that it was being recorded, which is totally good. It's all good. So to close it, how can I help you with anything that you're trying to achieve? Like, I'm giving you my commitment that anything you need ever, if I can, I'll be there and I'll help.
Keep being you. As long as you keep being you in this space, it allows me the creativity and the validity to keep being me, because everyone has a unique thing that they're supposed to do. And you often, like you're saying, feel like you're off track or off compass. And for you to reach out to me and then say that my wisdom as a part of this larger chef collective is needed and warranted, then it allows me to keep going and keep studying and keep feeling good. So I know that you're going to transmit that to other chefs as well and start reaching out to them and give them that same fire and inspiration that you gave me. So keep doing what you're doing. And as long as I know, like, if I'm in the kitchen and you at my 6, we good, then that's all you can do for me.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, man. Thanks for saying that. All right, dude. Well, let's call it. Thank you, dude.
It's always
This was awesome, dude. We'll do it again.
Yes, sir.
Guaranteed. And we'll do a bunch of other shit, too. This sounds awesome.
Let's get it.
Cool. Peace.